All right, this first part of the review, we're going to be looking at the key vocabulary. Now, this test will be just like the other test that we took, the Unit 1 test, where there'll be about 26, 27 multiple choice questions, which will be worth 75% of your grade. And then there'll be 2 free response questions, which will be worth 25% of your grade. I think after taking that first test, we now understand how important it is that we, number 1, study, and that number 2, that we read those free response questions carefully and answer each verb of how the question is asked is telling us to answer it. So, first part of what we're going to do is we're going to go over the key vocabulary. There is not a matching section of the test, but these vocabulary words are words that you need to understand for the test, to understand those questions. All right, number 1, economic system where the government is in total control. In this economic system, the people do not have any freedom as the government determines everything in regards to the economy. There's a government official, there's the government body itself that's determining things in regard to the economy. That answer is P, communist economic system, also known as a command economic system. Now, it's important that you understand the difference between a government system and an economic system. A government system is talking about how that government is ran and the decisions that the government makes. An economic system is just talking about the economic decisions that are made by that government. So the government system and the economic system can be 2 total different things. For example, China, we know it's a command economic system, but yet they are a republic, which is one of the government types that we talked about. Those government types we will apply to the different units when we get there, so you won't necessarily see questions about those on the test, but in regards to the rest of the units, it's important that we kind of introduce those into Unit 1. Number 2, a tool that geographers use to look at population statistics, especially age and gender. That is the model that we looked at where we had age going up on the y-axis, your gender on both sides of the x-axis, and these were percentages of the population. That was your population pyramid, which is G. Number 3, a region that has common characteristics with proven borders. That answer is M, formal regions. It's important that we keep remembering those 3 different types of regions because we're going to apply each one of those to all of the units that we talk about. The next type of region that has a central point that is connected some way is a functional region, M. I'm sorry, not M, K, functional region. Remember, that one's also referred to as a nodal region. Number 5, a region that is based off of opinions. That is a perceptual region, H. Number 6, back to the economic systems. An economic system based off of supply and demand. To determine production, the government has no control in this type of economy. That answer is L, free enterprise economic system, also known as a free market economic system. It's the same thing, just make sure that you understand that it is on the right side of the economic spectrum and that command is on the left side. This is where the government has absolutely no control in the economy, that supply and demand determines it. For example, a Walmart within the free enterprise system, let's say they cannot keep Totino's pizzas on the shelves because everybody loves them, because they're awesome. We all know that. So what they do is they will order more Totino's pizzas because there's a supply for that, or there's a demand for that, so their supply is going to meet that demand. In a command economic system, the government's going to come in and say, you know what, we don't need to sell Totino's pizzas today, so they can't. All right, that's kind of the economic system difference there. Numbers, and that answer was L, free enterprise system. Number 7, a form of production that is done out of your home as a hobby, not to make a lot of money with. Most less developed nations, their production is here. That is O, cottage industry. A good way to remember that is when you think of cottage, you're thinking of a really small house. Commercial, you're thinking huge. Cottage is done in your house. Your workers are your family. It's kind of a hobby. You might be making money, but you're not living off of that money, and you're not making a whole lot of money. That's your less developed nations. Number 8, a form of production that revolves around large-scale production, looking to make a lot of money and live off of that money. This is where most of your more developed nations are located. This answer is Q, commercial industry. Number 9, farming to survive, not to live off the money made. Less developed nations, this is the type of farming that they have. That answer is B, subsistence farming. Number 10, farming to make a lot of money. That answer is R, commercial farming. This is where your more developed nations are. Number 11, an economic activity that less developed nations have most of their people in. This involves getting the resource straight out of the ground. That is F, primary economic activity. Number 12, an economic activity that less developed nations and then newly industrialized nations are located in. This is when you're adding value to that natural resource. That is secondary economic activity, which is D. Number 13, an economic activity that more developed nations focus on. This is the service industry. Number 14, an economic activity of the professionals. This is where your more developed nations are. This is the quaternary economic activity, which is E. Now remember the example that I gave over all four of those, in addition to the stories that we created using all four. But the cutting down of the trees would be the primary. The creating paper out of the trees would be the secondary. The selling of the trees would be the tertiary. And then doing research on how the process could be easier, quicker, or cheaper would be 4, quaternary economic activity. Number 15, practices which are passed on from one generation to another. This one you might want to highlight and underline because we didn't talk a whole lot about this. The answer is N, cultural institutions. These are the ideas within the culture that are passed on from generation to generation. Cultural institutions can also be referred to as religions, education systems, the types of jobs that are there. Those are kind of cultural institutions that are passed on within cultures themselves. We'll get to more specific ones when we get to the actual regions, but that's what they are. It is in cultural institutions. Number 16, a religion based off of the teachings of Jesus predominantly spread through European colonization. That answer is S. You might underline, highlight that second part of that sentence because it's important that you understand that as European countries colonized, they took their religion with them, which most of the time was Roman Catholicism, which is a part of Christianity. So they spread Roman Catholicism in all of the regions of the world that they looked at, that they went to and colonized. Number 17, a religion based off of the teachings of Muhammad, predominantly spread in the Middle East and Indonesia through trade. That answer is I, Islam. Number 18, a religion or philosophy founded by Siddhartha Gautama. That answer is T, Buddhism. Number 19, a religion that uses the caste system for reincarnation. That answer is J, Hinduism. And then number 20, a religion that uses cultural assimilation in northern India. That answer is H, perceptual region.